Hi there, I'm Angie Carpenter, Town of Islip Supervisor, and welcome to this edition of Supervisor Spotlight. We are so delighted to have in the studio with us today, here at Long Island MacArthur Airport, Frank Boulton, who is the owner of the Long Island Ducks and has a few other titles, and we're going to find out about Frank and his history and how he got involved in the Ducks. And so take it away, Frank.
Well, thanks, Angie. It's great to be here, especially at Long Island MacArthur Airport, which is really enjoying a rejuvenation, I guess.
Well, you know, part of your efforts, too. Frank is one of our volunteer members of our Long Island Airport Advisory Board, and you've seen the progress that's taken place in the last 2 years here.
Absolutely. Shelley and Rob do a great job.
Yeah, they do.
And your efforts spearheading this right off the get-go, very important to all of us here in Islip and Suffolk County and Long Island.
Thanks for your help with that. And it's got to be important to you as an owner of a major team like this. The Ducks are great. To have an airport so close by.
Right. You know, as you know, we may play games in Central Islip, New York, in Suffolk County, but it says Long Island across our jersey. So just much like the airport, we're regionalized, and that's important because I've said it often. There's no mountain range between Nassau and Suffolk, and you know we're better off when we look at Long Island as a region. My own personal opinion. Oh,
and it's so true. And I've been to a number of games over the years, and I'm always anxious to find out where people are from, and walking to the car, seeing a young family, you know, a couple of kids having a great time, having been at the game, and ask them where they're from, and you hear Belmore, you hear Massapequa, you hear Queens, you know, so it's certainly far easier.
To that end, this is our season ticket holders. I don't know if we can get a shot of that.
Oh, that's great.
But it shows you those are the season ticket holders in 10 packs. Those are not just single game attendants. These are the folks that come, and they come from as far as the Twin Forks to the Queens border. So it's great, you know, that people come from all over Long Island.
And it's interesting too, like anything, being that it's in our own backyard. I'm certain that people who live nearby say, oh, yeah, I've got to get to a Ducks game, and probably keep putting it off because it's there. Yet people from a distance will come because it is such a far more enjoyable experience than it is traveling to see the Mets or the Yankees.
Well, the Mets and the Yankees are great as well.
They're great. And I'm not saying they're not.
And you know, it's kind of, we've been saying this, Buddy and I have been saying it for years. The Mets and the Yankees are like Broadway, and we're like the movies. We price up against the movies, and I often say our popcorn's better.
Yes.
You know, so you know, our prices, we've only raised prices twice in our now headed into our 19th season, which is hard to believe in its own right, because you and I have been at this since the beginning.
Since the very beginning. It's hard to believe.
And to only raise prices a couple of dollars since then to keep it affordable, stay true to our mission, and we have free parking, which is sort of, you don't see that anywhere anymore.
Exactly.
At a professional sporting event. You know, free parking is a thing of the past, but not at a Ducks game.
That's so great. And I remember, you know, when it all came about, initially it was going to be in a different area of the county, and we wound up being there because the parking was more accessible. And it made the project more affordable. But I know that there were skeptics there who really gave you a hard time, were very on top of how much were you charging for a hot dog, how much were you charging for tickets, and almost insinuating that you were out there to gouge the public. And that certainly hasn't been the case. And the fact that you're saying here today that it's the second time in 19 seasons that you've raised prices, that's amazing.
And it wasn't this year. No, it's all been good. And of course, that's healthy. If you're going to have growth, you want it to be smart growth, and the elected officials, the elected officials wanted to make sure, and they weren't all sold, but they came around. You know, one of the things this wasn't my first baseball team. I had on 2 Yankee teams, a Kansas City Royal team. Buddy Harrelson and I had owned the Wilmington Blue Rocks in Wilmington, Delaware. So we'd kind of, it's sort of like a show where they take it on the road and play it to audiences, and then you bring it home.
Right.
But every time we'd be on the Jersey Turnpike, we'd say, gee, we really need to do this at home. Short of commute for both of us, obviously, but just because people on Long Island for years we're told, well, we're an island. We have beautiful beaches. We have nice parks. That's where you should go. But we didn't really have something else. It just is a quality of life addition to our community of Long Island.
And it is that something else that families truly enjoy. You see it all the time. And I'm talking about young, toddlers and even younger than that people feel comfortable bringing them to a Ducks game where they might not in a larger venue.
Right. I mean, it's pretty safe. I remember a season ticket holder who was taking his 2 young sons to Ducks games all the time, and then he said, "You know what? We're ready. We're tested ready to go to Yankee Stadium." So he goes to Yankee Stadium to see a Red Sox game, which he pays, he tells me, a phenomenal amount of money to get those seats. He's jazzed up. They're in their seats. Before he gets to his seat, he's already spent like $50 in just concessions. And he gets to his seat, and his son turns to him and says, "When's Quacker Jack coming out?"
Oh,
which is just a great testament to the strength of Quacker Jack. And Mike Pfaff, our president and general manager, reminds our staff on a regular basis that the most important guy in the off season is hanging in the closet.
Yeah, but it's true, and Quacker Jack is out there, and kids, he's like a magnet. He or she is like a magnet, and the kids just naturally go to Quacker Jack, and you guys have been so great about being very gracious about keeping them out there year round, and you'll see Quacker Jack in the St. Patty's Day Parade in Bayshore,
sure.
And you'll see him at, as I did a couple of weeks ago at the Bayport Little League opening, and really just out there. Sure,
we go into the hospitals at the holidays with Toy Drive. We go, and again at Valentine's Day, we visit the hospitals, and it's one of the things that players go home, but we don't. We work all year round, and we want to make sure that we're in the community in front of people. We have a program called Take a Duck to Class that's sponsored by TD Bank, and we've been doing that for many, many years. So, we're always...
All right, so talk about that. So Quacker Jack actually can be requested to go to a classroom?
Absolutely. Now, this is a contest.
Right.
So the teachers in the various schools will submit essays, why Quacker Jack, or maybe they'll be talking about how to be a team player in a classroom, or a recycling program or a reading program, and then they submit that to TD Bank and the Ducks, and a winner is selected, and then Quacker Jack goes with one of our staff members, and they have a nice program.
Oh, that is really great. Tell us, how many seats are there at the stadium? I kind of know, but share with everybody how many seats there are.
We like to say 6,002. So that's what it is on the diagram.
And how have you been? What is your success like filling those seats?
Well, in the first decade, we actually operated, because we sell standing room only tickets, at above 100% capacity. But we're about 96% in the first 18 years, which is,
That's got to be phenomenal statistics.
It is. And a lot of times that I like to think, and I do believe that I've got a great staff led by Michael Pfaff, who does a tremendous job. But we also have 3 million people here on Long Island and 6,000 seats. So if we do a good job, we're going to provide that affordable family entertainment to... It'll be accessible to all 3 million people.
Yeah. And I would imagine that keeping those seats filled is something that you constantly have to be concerned about, because like with anything else, people attrit out. The fan of 20 years ago, you may not have those fans any longer, just by virtue of the fact that they may have relocated or passed on or what have you. And we see a lot of seniors coming to the game.
Sure. A funny story about that. When a season ticket holder doesn't renew, we'll call, and Buddy used to call with Michael and sometimes myself, and we'll say, thank you so much for being a season ticket holder, but we're just interested. Is there something that's happened? Did you move away? Or is there anything we can learn or get better? But first and foremost, thank you. And more often than not, somebody will say, "Well, when I started going to the Ducks games, my son and daughter were 4 and 6, and now they're in college."
Yeah, I
so it's a different dynamic in the family. But thank you, and by the way, we're going to be a 10-pack holder, not a season ticket holder. So we want to make sure.
Let's wrap up here. We're going to take a little break, and we will get back to that. Back to the studios here with Frank Boulton from the Long Island Ducks. Welcome back to Supervisor Spotlight. This is Angie, Carpenter, supervisor of the wonderful town of Islip, and we're at our town's airport, Long Island MacArthur Airport, and in the studio today we have Frank Boulton from the Long Island Ducks, and we were talking a little bit offline, but I think any real Ducks fan or anybody that knows anything about the Ducks in Long Island and baseball knows about our hometown hero, Buddy Harrelson, and he has been so much a part of the Ducks from day one, and obviously an icon in baseball in general. But he's fallen on some challenges, and I asked Frank, and he's willing to share that information. So people are going to want to know,
Yes, back in February, the Harrelson family, decided that it was time for the public to know, and Bob Clappish from the Post wrote a two-page story that ended up having front page and back page in the Post. So it had become public that Buddy had early onset Alzheimer's, and something that he's been dealing with for the past few years, but it was coming to a point where he wasn't driving anymore.
Yeah.
So we pick him up and bring him back to the ballpark.
And he's still a part of the Duck experience.
Oh, and he will be every day that he feels well enough to come. He was, he might be losing some of his memory, but one of the things he has is great muscle memory. He can still throw BP.
That's so great.
He can still hit ground balls and fungos like better than any of us.
Yeah. And
he's never happier than when he's in a uniform. And kind of the interesting part about Buddy is that Buddy played. And it's amazing. And I maybe I'm one of the only people that thinks this is amazing, but he played shortstop for the Mets for 12 years. Didn't play second base, didn't play third base, didn't play left field. He went to one position.
That's
shortstop.
Crazy.
And you just don't really see that in baseball today. So, I mean, he is the guy as advertised. He's what you get. He's been all over Long Island for the last 2 decades with us, and then, since 1969 and a little before that, going to every golf outing, working with every charity. He spent a good part of his life with Make-A-Wish, and, there isn't a charity that Buddy hasn't participated in. So when he found out he has Alzheimer's, we did get a hold of the Alzheimer's Association. It took him for a while to come to grips with things, but he's been, he doesn't look to have any bad days. Whenever I see him, when I'm with him, when he's at the ballpark, he's very, very happy.
I'm sure that being at the ballpark's got to be, therapeutic, if nothing else, for him.
Absolutely,
to be in that environment that he absolutely loves.
Yeah, and that he knows. He's been in a Ducks uniform longer than he was in a Mets uniform.
When you spoke about his charitable giving, I know I've been involved in a number of events over the years and good causes, and there wasn't a time that I can remember, whether it was Our Lady of Consolation, right, or whether it, like you said, is Make-A-Wish or any organization, that I would say, well, yeah, I know Buddy, I'll give a call. Never, ever can I recall him turning anybody down, if he was available. And years past, when he was up to it, he'd be up there, challenging someone on a hole. To drive past Buddy, and you didn't. He's a pretty mean golfer.
He's a very good golfer.
But again, a heart as big as all get out. Just a real, genuine, caring, incredible human being. And I have to tell you, Frank, it is an honor for me to be able to say I know him. I knew him. I know him.
He's your friend.
He's a friend. He is a friend, and your heart just fills with pride when you see him, and you just want to give him a hug. And he's just that kind of a guy. So
we've been partners for over 25 years because, like I said, we had a team down in Wilmington, Delaware, and I have been with Buddy so many times where I'm waiting for him because there's one more child who needs an autograph. Right. And to that extent, we'd go to speaking engagements, and some were bigger than others. But I remember this one time there's like 500 people here, and I'm with Buddy, and I just started with, does anybody here not have Buddy Harrelson's autograph? And about 8 people put their hand up, and he went over, and he, out of 500 people, Buddy will be with you momentarily, and that's just the way he's been. And so giving of himself and his just the way he approaches the world.
And never did you feel like he was doing you a favor. I mean, he genuinely enjoys people and wanting to be with them and sharing his love of the game.
So on Friday, August 3rd of this season, we will be honoring Buddy by retiring his number. And again, it'll be in association with the Alzheimer's Association. So, we'd like everybody to come out. And now, it's not his final time in a Ducks uniform.
No, that's great.
He's gonna wear that uniform till he decides he can't, and he's going to be still remain a big part of our organization.
But certainly in baseball, retiring a number is a big deal.
It is a big deal. But again, I wanted him to be able to know it and experience it and feel the admiration of the people here on Long Island who love him.
And for his family.
To see that. Absolutely.
To be there and see the pleasure it's going to bring him.
Right.
Having that all happen.
Right. And I want him to be in a position to recognize all of the above.
When you think about going to a Ducks game, the experience of the game and everything that goes along with it, the peanuts that are on the floor and the waddle-in shop, that is amazing to me, to see how to this day people want that Ducks hat, they want that, quacker that we have that someone gave my grandson. He loves his quacker. But that's amazing too after 18 years.
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody came to us before the Ducks even took the field and said, I was up in Boston, I believe, and went on a duck tour, and the leader in the duck tour had a quacker shaped like the bill of a duck, beak of a duck, and so I looked at it and I said, this is pretty cool. Put it on a lanyard, and so let's order 3,000 of them. We sold them out our first game ever.
Yep.
And there was like a black market to get these quackers. And over the years, I can't tell you how many quackers we sold, but we're still selling an awful lot of them. And it's kind of interesting because when I get on to go home, and I live in the Bayshore Brightwaters area, I'll get on Southern State, and then I'll see right as you get on the exit, some quackers on the side of the road. The parents' kid falls asleep. Boom, out the window. Which is good for us because they'll buy another one when they come next week.
Yeah, that's great. You were talking about numbers and statistics. One of the things that amazed me was the number of sold-out games that you have had over the years, and that was 672.
I think you're correct. That's, I don't have a board where I log each one, but it's been wonderful, and we eclipse any other team in our league, the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball. So we're very proud of that.
Well, it speaks to the organization and the people, your team, that you have, not just the players on the field, but certainly the team in the offices and that are there year round to make this a sustainable experience for us here on Long Island. And
right.
You've just done it so well.
We don't put the Baseball Today sign out and just open up the gates, throw the bats and the balls. It's Mike Pfaff and his staff and myself. We're there all year round. We take off 1 week between Christmas and New Year's, and other than that, you can find us at the ballpark.
Yeah, and that I know is true. And the experience of the games, too, involving the community. You go to a game and you'll see a Cub Scout pack, with the flag out there, and someone singing the Star Spangled Banner, who more times than not is someone local, a kid.
Right. Well, I've seen so many different variations on the national anthem, from seniors in poodle skirts to a marching band to a violin player. Yeah. It's great because all those people are vetted and are from our community.
Absolutely. I personally prefer the very classic Star Spangled Banner.
I like the quick one.
Yeah, that too. Thank you for being with us, and we will be back after a short break with Frank Boulton of the Long Island Ducks here on Supervisor Spotlight. Thank you. Hi, this is Angie Carpenter, Town of Islip Supervisor, here in the studios of JVC Broadcasting at Long Island MacArthur Airport with our special guest today, Frank Boulton of the Long Island Ducks. So I asked Frank if he would be willing to share, how did you get into this? You went to college. I don't think you majored in baseball ownership. So
No.
tell us how you got here.
No, well, I, like many people out there, played Little League, and I played for the Bayshore Brightwaters Little League, where I still live. And
went to their opening a couple of weeks ago. It was as great as always.
They're a great organization. And then played in high school, and actually played up in Cape Cod summers growing up. Mm-hmm. Actually played for Ted Williams.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Which was a great experience, learning how to hit from the greatest hitter of all time. It doesn't always transfer. But so it's a pretty good hitter, So I love the game of baseball, and I got injured playing college football, and ended up going to another school after I got hurt because I was at Kings Point, believe it or not, and I went to Villanova. National champions in basketball.
Yes,
for
basketball many years. I know. Congratulations this season.
Thank you very much, very much. And both my daughters went to Villanova, so in our Boulton family, it's kind of. I went to Bayshore High School. My kids went to Bayshore High School. I went to Villanova. My kids went to Villanova.
That is so wonderful.
So we
tradition.
It is tradition, and so I went to work on Wall Street as a bond trader, and I got a call from a friend of mine saying there's a quarter of a team for sale in Hagerstown, Maryland. And I said, well, I'm on the 96th floor of the World Trade Center right now, and that's a lot of money. It was $50,000, by the way. It really wasn't a lot of money, because that team today would trade for over $3 million. So I said, I'm kind of a hands-on guy. I think I'll pass on it, but I got very interested.
Right.
So then about 5 years later, I bought my first team in the Yankee organization. That was in the Carolina League, same league. Instead of $50,000, I spent $500,000
Wow.
to buy half the team, and then I owned. Buddy and I did the Bloomington Blue Rocks, and then I had the Albany Colony Yankees. Tried to move them to Long Island.
I remember that too.
Yes, we front page of Newsday.
Yep.
And then we went back to the drawing board, and Buddy and I figured out there was a need for a top independent league, a boutique league that gave players that found themselves at the end of spring training without a job. And there we hired a guy named Joe Klein, who had been the former GM of the Texas Rangers, the Detroit Tigers, and the Cleveland Indians. And there we go. The Atlantic League was born 21 years ago.
Well, that's really great. And, hearing about the fact that, in a league at this level, you've got players that come and go, and yet, despite the fact that there is a changeover, I mean, if they have an opportunity to go back to the majors or go to the majors, they're going to go.
Sure.
But yet, the quality of the experience that you give to anyone coming to that ballpark has remained consistent and has remained top shelf.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it gets difficult in August when half our roster. Actually, we start with 200 of the best players in the world that aren't signed to a major league organization. And on average, we sell between 40 and 50 contracts from the league. So we're taking, a good chunk of the players in our league. And, there isn't any 1-800 baseball player to call to put back another player of that quality. So it is incumbent upon the GMs and the agents know that opportunities come available in the Atlantic League, and we are the only independent league in America that has a direct deal with Major League Baseball and how our players move from our clubs to a Major League organization. So it's all scripted out. It's all signed. Actually, Joe Torre signed the document, and so that's a big thing for us. But also allows the players. It's a win for the players because we don't hold them up.
Right.
It's not like you have your best player. By definition, your best players are going to get signed.
Right.
So all of a sudden you're losing a guy named Lou Ford, and then he goes to the Baltimore Orioles and he helps them get into the playoffs and lose a coach. He's back with the team.
Right.
But I mean, we've had players over the years that have gone on. Rich Hill and Scott Kazmir both are with the Dodgers presently. Both signed 3-year, $48 million deals.
Wow.
I didn't pay them anywhere close to that.
Not and keep the ticket prices affordable.
No. So
doesn't happen.
And especially in a 6,000 seat venue. Right. So what you can count on seeing at the ballpark is top-notch baseball. We have Francisco Rodriguez, who was fourth in all-time saves in Major League Baseball. He's in our bullpen this year.
That's great.
We have another player who was with the Houston Astros, world champion Houston Astros last year. Mm-hmm. We have Travis Snyder, who has over 600 games in the big leagues. So we have, I think, 12 or 13 players this year out of our team of 25, roster of 25, that have Major League time. So you're going to see really top-notch baseball. That
is so great. And, hearing you say that you wouldn't hold anybody back, right. And they have that opportunity. I'm sure that the temptation could be there to make it difficult. But I'm also certain that also, like as an employer or a former employer, I owned a business and now I'm there at the town. If someone has an opportunity to better themselves and go elsewhere, even though the temptation may be there to kind of keep them back because it's going to be hard on you to lose them,
right.
I think at the end of the day, you feel better about it and they feel better about the organization, and you spread that goodwill out there.
Right. And I think the fans over the years take pride in, let's say, the diehard fans.
Yep.
And we break our fans down a couple different ways. We should probably get to that with the groups, and you touched on it a little earlier. But our fans, they're very proud of a player who goes on and has an impact at the big league level, and you can maybe see him in the playoffs and say, yeah, I saw him in a Duck uniform.
Yep.
I have his autograph, because every Sunday we have autograph Sundays. Every Sunday, during the season, all our players come out and they'll sign autographs before the game, mm-hmm. and you can come on the field and get your autograph.
And that's exciting.
Yeah, and then that's a family day, and then after the game, big kids and little kids get a chance to run around the bases.
And there are games happening during the seventh inning stretch?
Well, yeah. My wife, who, God bless her, she's put up with the guys on baseball teams for the last 28 years. She'll come to the game and she'll go up to the stands when they're playing to get some food, so she doesn't miss Cracker Jack race a 5-year-old around the bases.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. And by the way, there's a baseball game going on. So we try to make it for the casual fan that occasionally I'll see this will happen to me. I'll be going somewhere and they'll say, I was at the ballpark last night, and I said, great, thank you for coming. And they'll say, I'll ask them, did we win? They said, well, we left a little early. I said, who did we play? And they said, the guys in the purple uniforms. And they said, well, Johnny had to go to camp, but we had a great time. But I love Quacker Jack, and that's it.
But because it's affordable, you don't feel like you have to stay for the whole game if you can. If the kids have something early that morning, you don't feel like you've made this major investment. We're staying here for the whole game.
Yeah, I call that risk reward.
Yeah.
The risk reward of going to see a Ducks game is pretty low. I mean, you go to a big league game, it's an investment. You circle that date on your refrigerator, and on and off you go on that date. And if God forbid they lose, you go, oh my gosh.
Yep.
But not here at the Ducks. Everybody comes out and has a good time.
Yeah, I don't think the goal in going there is necessarily to be there to see the team win, but it's to go have a great time, most often with your family.
I know we're getting close to the end, but I want to remind everybody that this is All-Star Summer. We are hosting the All-Star Game here on Long Island.
Oh, that's exciting.
On Wednesday, July 11th.
Okay, so that's a date. Wednesday, July 11th, the All-Star Game will be hosted here on Long Island at Duck Stadium. And also August 3rd, the tribute to Buddy.
Great, yep.
Yeah. So I just can't thank you enough for making the time to be here today, Frank. I know you're very busy, especially now. Season's already commenced. You're one more than you've lost, so that's a good place to be.
Yes. It's early on.
It's early on.
It's a long season. It's a marathon.
Season. But it's exciting, and we thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing everyone watching the Long Island Ducks. Thank you.